Hello there. My name is John McAfee.
The story goes like this. John McAfee died in prison, and apparently everything indicates that it was a suicide. But then a couple of tweets by him resurfaced where he's saying that he wouldn't kill himself. I am contented here. I have friends. The food is good. All is well. Know that if I hang myself a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine. Getting subtle messages from US officials saying, in effect, "We're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself." I got a tattoo today, just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm. So everyone put a two and two together and came up with a conclusion that he didn't kill himself. And now you can go and tweet about how the government is corrupt and evil, and bonus points if you add Epstein in there. And that's probably what you want me to talk about. But instead, I want to give insight on John as a person himself, to see if killing himself is something that he would do. So he was quite troubled. He was actually alleged of murdering his neighbor. And after getting arrested by the police, he actually faked a heart attack. He never got charged for the murder, and he doesn't take the allegations too seriously.
Where did I bury the body of Jimmy Hoffa? Well, it absolutely is not in the parking lot of McAfee corporate headquarters. Really. I mean it. No need to look there. You're not going to be checking on this, are you?
He also doesn't deny being a paranoid schizophrenic.
Am I really a paranoid schizophrenic? Honestly, people, what sort of answer would you expect if I was?
And you know, McAfee, like the actual antivirus software that he created and that got him rich, well, he made a video on how to uninstall the software. I'll just let the video speak for itself.
I tried one final time and got the Urban Dictionary definition for McAfee. McAfee, a barely passable virus scanning program that updates at the worst possible times. Tends to render your computer completely useless whenever it starts an update, which it doesn't ask to start, and you cannot cancel or pause. McAfee updates at horrible times, almost like the creators want you to die. 15 years ago, I had some beautiful software and they took it over. I don't know what they did. It was like the time I hired that Bangkok prostitute to do my taxes while I fucked my accountant. It was terrible. The same fucking thing is going on now. But I know what to do. I know exactly what to do. Believe me, I've got a fucking solution right here.
Oh, and he also lived with 7 women, and most of them tried to murder him.
Was I really living with 7 women in Belize? Now, that's a tricky one. There were, in fact, days when all 7 were present. Did these women really try to kill me? Well, not all of them, of course. In fact, fewer than 50% tried to kill me. Although the few that did try seemed downright proud of it.
I was angry, whatever, and I was ready to shoot him, and for some reason I missed.
You tried to shoot him?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And I also tried to cut his throat, but he just leaned against the wall and said, "Do it."
And he even ran for president.
I'm running for president because I perceive an enormous danger facing America. And the ones who see it are the cybersecurity experts within this country and around the world. The fundamental difference between myself and every other contender in every party is that I have no shame. Yes, I've been in jail. I've taken drugs. More drugs than you in the audience can ever fucking carry. Everything that I have done, I own.
I think you get the idea. He did a lot of weird shit and had clear mental issues and was on drugs most of the time. So who's to say that a person like this wouldn't kill himself? But that's just one side of him. Despite of how he seems, he was actually quite a smart and rational person. And he had many problems with the government spying on people. On his channel, he has a lot of videos that are just news broadcasts with him in it. And in the news, he usually just argues about some security-related topic. So for example, in this video, he argues that there is no need for a master key for Apple phones. But the FBI wants it anyway because it would help them spy on people easier.
The FBI is asking for a master key. I have been in this business my entire life. There has never been a single instance of a master key or a backdoor being placed in software that was not accessed within a matter of weeks by foreign agents or black hat hackers.
I think if we could get it first and safeguard it, yes. But we're talking about the lives of American people, not about a burglar, not about someone who's involved in minor criminal activity, but the lives of the American people.
Well, Mr. Rogers, I didn't mention privacy as the issue here. I mentioned security and safety for America. The FBI was hacked a month ago by a 15-year-old boy who walked off with thousands of personnel records, including undercover agents. And you're telling me you're going to keep this safe? You can't, sir.
In another video, he explains how you can crack an iPhone PIN code in like 30 minutes and that the FBI should be able to do it. Therefore, there is no need for some sort of a master key for Apple phones.
Now, let's take the FBI case. The FBI wants Apple to change their software so that it removes the check for security, so that we don't check for security anymore. Once it has that software, it can use that software on any phone. But they say they only need it for one phone. So I'm going to tell the world exactly how we do this. You need a hardware engineer and a software engineer. The hardware engineer takes the phone apart, and it copies the instruction set, which is the iOS and applications, and your memory. And then you run a piece of a program called a disassembler, which takes all the ones and zeros and gives you readable instructions. Then the coder sits down and he reads through. And what he's looking for is the first access to the keypad, because that's the first thing you're doing when you input your pad. It'll take half an hour. When you see that, then he reads the instructions for where in memory this secret code is stored. It is that trivial.
In another video, he explains how the FBI is publishing propaganda. Basically, there was a hack that seems to come from Russia, but he explains that if the hack did come from Russia, then they would have hid their details better.
I think that today, the most deceptive propaganda to date was perpetrated on the American public. 4 facts which they claim prove that Russia did this hack. It was utter nonsense. The information was, number 1, Russian language was found in the malware. Number 2, a Cyrillic keyboard was used. Number 3, the compiler, that is the piece of software that compiles the code so that it can execute always dates and timestamps. It said that the timestamps were in a time zone for the business hours of Moscow and St. Petersburg and other places in Russia. And then number 4, that the IP address pointed to a Russian address. Now, let me go through this and try to make it very simple for the American people. If the CIA wanted to hack Russia, the things you would not do is you would not include the English language in your software, because that would then exclude everybody except English-speaking nations. You would certainly not use a keyboard that everybody knows that the CIA uses, whatever keyboard they use. You'd have them use a Chinese keyboard or something else. You would certainly remove the date and timestamp from the program so that you couldn't tell what business hours or what zone you were in when it was compiled. And number 4, you would absolutely not have an IP address that points to you.
And here he's just explaining how Google owns everyone's personal data and that nobody has any privacy.
But if you believe that Google is not harmful, then you must believe that the total loss of our privacy and human dignity is not harmful. And please, don't get me wrong. I love Google from one standpoint. It has opened up the world to information beyond comprehension and has enriched our lives. But Google has taken the mantle of corporate conscience and sacrificed it on the altar of mammon for money.
I think you get the idea. Basically, a lot of companies just control so much details of our lives. If we wanna look up something on the internet, we have to use Google. Almost everyone has Facebook, and Facebook owns everyone's personal data. And it's very likely that big companies are actually selling that data. This whole privacy thing is a really big rabbit hole, and I suggest you do your research yourself. The reason that I'm showing these videos is because I want you to see how much good points and how much ideas in general he had about privacy. And all of those points, all those ideas, all those real good ideas, all those problems with privacy he wanted to stop, they just don't matter anymore. Like privacy is non-existent. He didn't change anything. And if I was in his position, and I've been fighting for privacy all my life, and knowing the fact that I wasn't able to change anything, I'd be feeling pretty defeated and just tired of the stupidity of all the American people. So now that you know more about him as a person, think about his life for a moment. He's 75 and he was in jail waiting for a trial, and it's very likely that he would have gotten 30 years of prison time for tax evasion. As well, if you look at more recent tweets of his, they honestly seem like the ramblings of an old man. I have nothing, yet I regret nothing. There is so much sorrow in prison, disguised as hostility. The sorrow is plainly visible even in the most angry faces. I'm old and content with food and a bed, but for the young prison is a horror, a reflection of the minds of those who conceived them. I have 1 million followers, but I'd be surprised if even 1% bothered to read my tweets. Ramblings of an old man lost in near infinite Twitterverse like tears in rain. As you may guess, I'm having a down day. This is basically poetry. In my years as a programmer, I observed numerous anomalies that may have practical applications. Since I'm getting no younger, I thought I'd begin passing them on. As you can see, these are the tweets of someone who's ready to die. And even though he did tweet that he wouldn't kill himself, this was around a year ago when he got in prison. And you know, prison does things to you. There's a high possibility that his mindset would have just changed in 1 year. Honestly, I think there's a possibility that he just came to the conclusion that his life was over and there was nothing else for him left to do, and he just left. Of course, it's easy to say that he simply said that he wouldn't kill himself and that he killed himself, so that doesn't make sense and the government is evil. But as I mentioned before, he was clearly a troubled person, and untroubled people don't always make sense. Now, there's another third possibility that he actually planned this whole thing, that he tweeted he wouldn't kill himself, knowing for a fact that he would kill himself later, and then just wanted some sort of chaos. And knowing him, that's also a possibility, but this is more of a conspiracy theory, and I'm not gonna talk about it more, but I'm just throwing it out here. And he's truly a complex person, and I suggest you do your research on him yourself if you're actually interested about this whole thing. Because most people who just tweet about how, oh my god, he didn't kill himself, the government is evil, those people don't really know anything about him. They just saw the situation and they're just bandwagoning on this whole thing. It's fucking stupid. So I find him pretty interesting, and I just want people to know more about him instead of deciding to make decisions without knowing anything about him. Thank you for watching, and if you knew this whole situation and I didn't change your mind, then I'm glad that you at least listened to me.